Good evening, everyone. At this moment in time, it's just me this evening, so I don't need to do my introductions as of yet. Evening, Lee. First time I've done a solo show in a while so far. Well, I think it's the second time I've done one on this channel, actually. It's a little bit weird talking to yourself, but we'll go with it. So yeah, we've got an awful lot to catch up on. So the last time you saw us was last Tuesday. An awful lot's happened since then. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pages of notes. So buckle in. I don't think it's going to be a short one. It might be a little bit shorter if no one joins me, but hopefully they do. We shall see. So I'm going to make myself a little note because in my other news section, I have one more bit of news which was given to me this evening. So we are going to start with at the start of my notes is NXT as of last Wednesday before Battleground. So I just wrote before Battleground. That is for later on. So we have that Ethan Page started the show by getting out of the car and greeting Ava to say, you sure do know how to treat free agents. Another regular. So see, how's it going? I'm all right, thanks. How are you? And then Jordana Grace came in with an NXT NA on the back of a jacket, which is pretty cool. I really like that crossover element. Now they're taking it. She opened it up by having the first match against Stevie Turner with Roxanne Perez on commentary. Match ends from a juggernaut driver from Jordana Grace. Only lasted a few minutes before she picked up the win to put herself over really well in terms of the... It's someone I didn't expect. Lee, how are you?
I'm all right, mate. The sexy boy is here. Don't worry.
Yeah, it's a shame I haven't got that now. I will have it in for a later day.
I saw you're on your own, mate, so I thought you might want some help.
Of course. It's weird, isn't it? Because obviously I know you do videos sometimes on Guna Gathering when you're by yourself, but it's weird, isn't it? Because it almost is like you're talking to yourself.
Drives you a bit crazy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I just hope I'm not going to cut out.
Oh, I did think you were joking, but I think you might have actually cut out. So we might have Lee again. Trick was in the back saying, I'm going to knock all that ego out of him. I thought the build-up to this match was pretty good, with it being kind of a last-minute addition to the card. So then there was a ladder match summit where there was all stake in the claim to say that they would win the title. I've put the capture interrupting each other. It was all a bit of a mess. It was like a drunken argument between 5 people. It then broke out into a scuffle with everyone. And then the 6 women tag team match was announced for tonight. So that wasn't NXT's best work, I've got to say. There was then a couple of matches. The main one being that the Heritage Cup was defended between Tony D'Angelo and Damon Kemp. Tony D'Angelo did retain. They had a kind of a 3-round thing, which I think was I believe they do this at the Heritage Cup all the time. So Tony D'Angelo won the first round. There was no winner of the second round. Damon Kemp nearly won the third round by like seconds of not pinning. Then straight away after that, Tony D'Angelo picks him up, slams him straight away in round 4, and picks up the pin to retain the cup. So Ava then says that she wanted Ethan Page to sign the contract in her office, but he insisted doing it in the ring with the NXT Universe. There are still some things that I need to approve before he even thinks about NXT becoming an NXT superstar. Trick Williams interrupts and says, whatever Ethan Page wants, give it to him. Because he's out of his mind if he wants to fight me and jump in line for the NXT Championship. There was a 6-woman tag team. And then Ethan Page obviously sat down in the ring with Ava, demands a better contract than everyone in NXT. Trick Williams then arrives to tell Ava to make sure that Ethan Page signs it and to set up the championship match at Battleground. And then the match is made official. So, I'm going to skip over the rest of it until I get to Battleground. I was joking last week about the... Oh, yeah, it was great. I found it so funny. So, it's fantastic. So, Battleground. There was obviously a lot of hype going into this, with so many matches kind of being touted and stuff and being built up. So yeah, I was expecting massive things from it, but I could see I was okay with some of it. But other bits weren't so great. You will hear my honest thoughts now. Oh, yeah. You said, I hope I don't cut out. And then as you did that, I cut out.
I almost knew that was going to happen. I'm good now.
I did think for a second it was some like comedic stunt, to be honest, because it was almost like...
I wouldn't do that to you, mate. I wouldn't do that to you. I'm in the kitchen. Can you smell what I'm cooking? Doing Amy's dinner.
You've had that one waiting since you went off stream, haven't you?
Yes. You know me too well, mate. Sorry, where were you, mate?
So I've just talked about NXT as of last week. I'm going to let you say the little piece that you gave to me a couple of hours ago, because I believe this is quite interesting before we talk about the pay-per-view.
The lady that got arrested the night before the pay-per-view, right?
Yeah. Our special announcer.
Yeah. So there's some footage out there of a bit of a... Shall we call it an altercation, if you like? How do you want to phrase it?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit more than an altercation, to be honest. But that's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah. You know me too well, mate. I've got to keep it nice and PG. But yeah, what I've forgotten her name. What's her name? Sexy Red, is it?
Sexy Red, yeah.
There you go. So there's footage going around of her, well, wrecking stuff. Is that better? You know, we're going to quote Limp Bizkit.
Yeah. And getting herself arrested.
About 24 hours before the pay-per-view. Very strange.
Yeah, very. And it wasn't just, as obviously I saw the footage, it wasn't just a little bit of an argument or a little bit of a push around. She picks up what I can only admit basically as a silver pole. I don't really know what you call them as such.
Like a pole-based instrument.
Yeah, a pole-based instrument. Picked it up and
a pole-like structure, in the words of Michael Cole.
Yeah, clearly wanted to do a little bit of damage with it, which yeah, it's a bit concerning, really. And I imagine WWE.
Especially if you're about to make a bit of a big name on a pay-per-view event, probably not the best preparation.
No, but I suppose
she's acting like nothing's happened. That's the thing. She's acting like nothing's happened.
Yeah.
I mean, I mentioned to you on the group chat. She's dancing away with HBK like there's no tomorrow. I mean, I don't know if the viewers want to see me do my sexy boy shuffle, but
I'm sure they'll see it at some stage.
Absolutely, it'll bring in the ratings for sure. Meltzer liked it.
It can go alongside all my bloopers when Carl puts them together. We can have like an end of year special.
Oh, I can't wait for it.
Where we have all the unseen bits that they haven't seen yet, or they might have. So yeah,
Almighty, that's a frying pan just hit me round the head.
I suppose it leaves WWE in a bit of a weird position though, because obviously if they've told everyone that that she's going to be the host of Battleground, if this happens the night before, it puts them in a position where if they cut her, they then have to say why they've done it.
More of a story, isn't it?
Yeah. So they then have to say she got arrested last night, or they have to make up some complete lie. So they probably thought, do you know what? It's probably easier if we hope that nobody finds out. But obviously the internet will find out absolutely everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it does make a little bit of sense, because as I was watching Battleground, I thought to myself, if you're a host for me, I see a host and I think of it as like a WrestleMania host, because they often have one. They kind of come out before the thing starts. They kind of come out in the middle to hype it up a bit. And they just come out at random kind of points during the pay-per-view. And maybe towards the end. But actually, as I was watching and as I went back to kind of formulate my notes, I don't actually think she was in it really at all. So it doesn't make sense, because WWE have probably said, well, when this does get found out, let's make sure she hasn't had that much screen time, because we don't want to condone what she's done. So I think that does make a little bit of sense, potentially.
Yeah, I mean, when I've seen people hosting things in the past, I remember Rock hosting WrestleMania 27, coming down and spending about a good half hour in the ring without doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think of the New Day doing their spots at WrestleMania. You'd expect the host to welcome everyone to da-da-da, whatever, and then that'll be it, sort of thing. Special appearance, off you go. But like I say, it's, you know, kind of puts WWE in a difficult position. They advertise someone. Obviously, they have to be a bit careful. They've got a bit of a what's the word? They have zero tolerance. That's the word I'm looking for. On kind of being arrested and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, kind of not surprised she wasn't heavily featured. We'll yet to see if anything else happens from this one. This is a moving story. You know, this is, you know, moving parts and stuff. So we'll see what happens.
I imagine WWE will do a WWE type thing where they fail to recognise that anything's happened and then hope that nothing comes back on them. That's normally what happens. But obviously we know that's not as easy now that the internet's around. But yeah, we move on. Because if you get arrested, then it's your own fault, nobody else's. So we move on. We move on to the Battlegrounds. So it's a weird one, because I don't know if people saw it that's watching, but obviously they hosted it in the UFC Apex, and to be honest, it really didn't pay off by any stretch of the imagination. But I think you'll kind of get the gist of that as I go along. So the North American Championship ladder match was first up, with the 6 women. Obviously, I mentioned it quite a lot. But just in case you haven't been watching any wrestling, I'll go through the names. Ryan Jordan, Sol Ruka, Fallon Henry, Last Legend, Mitchin, and Jada Parker. So
this is the reason I was a bit apprehensive about doing this, because I don't know any of them names at all.
No, that's all good. We all made predictions. I think actually I haven't mentioned the predictions league in a while, so I think we'll maybe do that after we've got the results back in from Clash in the Castle, because there's been some interesting movements and stuff over the last sort of 3 or 4 pay-per-views that we haven't mentioned in the Predictions League.
Right,
but it has.
I am still in the background, Sam. I am just doing Amy's dinner, so.
No, that's all right. So this one was quite a shocker in terms of who actually ended up winning the match. I think most of us, and pretty much everybody as well, in terms of all the other wrestling channels and Bleacher Report and stuff, all had Sol Ruca to win. But NXT did a complete plot twist and gave it to Kalani Jordan. As I was reading the Bleacher Report, they told me that she was a potential dark horse, but nobody really saw it. And certainly was not the favourite going into the match. I thought each wrestler looked good in this match, and each had their moment in the spotlight. Certainly makes Kalani the rising star of the NXT Women's Division. My favourite moment, and I will send you it afterwards, Lee, because the finish is absolutely amazing. I know before I mentioned it, but Sol Ruca's got a finisher. Did one after the other. As it always looks impressive, however many times I see it. I thought the match was really good, but I do feel that the arena being the size and the layout that it was did hinder the match's potential, and also had a lack of energy from the crowd, being the arena what it was. And unfortunately, that was kind of the story of the whole night, to be honest.
That's unfortunate because it was well hyped up, and with the merger of the companies and stuff like that, you would have expected a little bit more of a bit of hype around it. But then sometimes we sometimes describe when you have this bit of this little sort of merger, don't we? When we talk about like Ultimate Fighting and the WWE and all that sort of, sometimes that crossover doesn't necessarily mash up well. Mm-hmm. Doesn't always translate. Sometimes when like, I'll give you an example. When you get the likes of Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler coming together in that match where it was almost like a shoot-based kind of wrestling match, right? Mm-hmm. And it doesn't necessarily translate well to the WWE audience. So it's one of those things, isn't it?
So it's a weird one. It wasn't on the fault of the crowd. I don't want to put it on the crowd at all. It was the way that, I don't know, it was the way that the acoustics were set up. Like it dumbed down the noise of the crowd. Like in the Performance Centre, they're obviously set up to have the audience at front and centre. Whereas I guess because this is not a WWE building, they're like all the sound and stuff might not be set up in the way that they would normally have it. So it just sounded flat all evening, to be honest.
It sounds like an Ali G joke coming in here. Nice acoustics.
Yeah, as I was writing my notes, I didn't want to sound like too techie. So because I don't really have a clue about sound acoustics and stuff like that. I've got no idea.
Come on, Sam, you're a DJ. I know this. Yeah. Come on, mate.
So, but I don't want to sound like I know an awful amount of how an arena's kitted out for sound and lighting and stuff, because I don't. But I have put a note here on Sexy Reds. I've actually called her Sexy Reds in my notes.
You're thinking of the Arsenal again, aren't you?
Yeah, maybe it's maybe that was just what she wanted to be called after her being arrested. She changed the name a little bit, so then she could just get away with it.
Yeah.
I've put the opening of the show was horrendous, and anything that she did carried on throughout, although she's never really on, which is probably a good thing. She did invite Kalani Jordan to a post-show party, but again, that seemed kind of weird and pointless. So, yeah, not many nice words for her this evening.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, it is.
There goes the Christmas card.
I hope she's not watching, because she'll be trying to find me with one of them poles, trying to whack me around the head.
Only if you're lucky, mate.
So yeah, that's hopefully the last time that we'll ever have to mention her on this channel.
Or indeed, last time we mentioned poles.
Yeah, well, you don't know. I suppose it could be a mystery weapon on one of the shows in the future, maybe.
Oh, yeah. 60 pole on a pole match.
Yeah, why not? So, yeah, that's hopefully the last time we'll ever mention a name, because I don't want to condone anyone that gets themselves arrested and is, by all intents of me watching that footage, not a very nice person, to put it very bluntly.
Absolutely. Well put. Well put.
Yeah, I could have said something else, but that would be less PG. So,
yeah.
We had a match between Nathan Frazier and Axiom and the OC. So Nathan Frazier and Axiom came through this one, although the OC did look strong. Again, I put the setting, did dampen down the excitement and the crowd noise again. It was kind of, when they chanted, "This is awesome," it was kind of like muffled. So, it wasn't through the fault of the crowd. It was through, I don't know. Again, I'm not going to try and make out that I know a lot. But okay, match, just not anything special, to be honest.
Is that an unfortunate use of the OC following the AJ Styles retirement angle?
Yeah, potentially. I do think that's probably the best they've looked since they've come back to the WWE.
Right.
But again, I think that it's a weird one, isn't it? Because we've got a lot of people stepping down to NXT now because they're not getting enough exposure on the main product. But I do actually think, as wrestlers, they're above the standard of NXT, to be honest.
Oh, they're whistle veterans, isn't it? Not trying to do an AEW pun there. But hey, that's one I'm impressed with myself. But look, the Gallows Anderson have been around for an awful long time, haven't they? But if they've lost this match, if they're putting over young talent, that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's what development brand is there for, right?
Yeah, I suppose the people that fight them or come in contact with them in NXT are only going to learn things from them. So it's only a good thing in terms of the NXT roster, in terms of people learning from others, because I believe that's how you. I don't know. I think that's how you learn the best, isn't it? From people that have been around for a lot longer than you have, that can kind of.
That's how it's been for generations, isn't it? I mean, I can think of like early Raw, early WWE Raw, and Bret Hart going against X-Pac, and you know, one veteran against a younger guy, putting up a belter of a match.
Yeah.
So when television matches meant something.
Yeah. So that's that. Then I come to one of the two of my favourite matches of the pay-per-view, which is the NXT Underground match. You probably will have seen a couple of years ago that they tried to do it and they tried to put it on Raw and stuff, and it was a complete car crash. So
I've just watched a video about it. Off on Wrestle Talk that came out last week.
So before it was a complete car wreck, because I don't think they had any direction in it really. But obviously
they did. They had Shane McMahon and they had sexy dancers and they had Big Omos at the back. I mean, what more do you want?
Yeah, basically, to put it bluntly, it was horrendous.
Yeah.
So there's been kind of this little revival of this stipulation. Obviously, in the last pay-per-view that they did, it was between Natalya and Lola Vice. So again, you had kind of a veteran wrestler in Natalya taking on one of the hottest in terms of talent. Because I didn't want to sound like I'm being pervy on them.
No.
One of the hottest talents in NXT at the moment, in Lola Vice. She picked up the win against Natalya, and now she's going against Shayna Baszler, which again kind of makes sense with the stipulation, because Shayna Baszler is one of these people that you would place in an underground match to make it legit, whereas Shane McMahon and Omos really make a great deal of sense. So
I can do all the impressions, don't you know? But to back you what you're saying, Shane has always, has got the mixed martial arts background anyway, isn't she? So she's if you're going to present anyone like that, that's who you want to do it. Someone who's legit been there, done it.
Yeah.
And she's a good fit in it.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely.
So again, they're sensibly booking as well, which makes anything a lot better if you're thinking about, right, who's right to book in this. So that was the first thing that they did right. And then actually, I really enjoyed the match. The last two I've really enjoyed. Lola Vice picks up the win again, which I think they're obviously doing on purpose, because then I imagine they'll propel her now. Now she's beat Natalya, now she's beat Shayna Baszler. There's only one way to go, and that's for the title potentially. So and that
kind of adds into what I said, I think it was last week, when I was referring to Natalya about a contract expiring. Like we said previously, Natalya, an experienced performer, I think she's got one of the longest tenure in the company that's active. When someone like that has gone to NXT to do, I don't want to say using title, but to put someone over, that's not a bad thing. The little subtle hint had been picked up. Some of the other media outlets had started reporting it as well. Obviously, they've been watching us.
Yeah,
maybe Natalya going to do the Owen Hart Cup thing.
Yeah,
I mean, they've not credited us at all, so it's a bit wrong. But
it really is a shame. But leading on from that, we have kind of been hearing more reports that she's not going to renew a contract and stuff. I've seen some things floating around. But obviously, we take that with a pinch of salt, because we really don't know in terms of contracts, because we've had this looming Becky Lynch thing over for weeks. But again, we haven't heard anything about that. And so
even Lynch herself yesterday tweeted out, "Oh, it's Monday night," like this. So I don't know if you caught that, but it was, it's like feeding the social media machine is what it is, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they're quite good at. I think WWE are quite good at leading you to believe that people might not sign, leaving it for a little while, so people actually are building up. Thinking, my she might leave. And then when they feel like it, they'll go, yeah, she's not going anywhere. So I do think they're very good in their business sense in terms of leaving a wrestler that might be out of contract. They probably they could have spoke to Natalya already and just say, right, we'll leave it for a couple of weeks, make people think that you're going somewhere else, and then you don't know. Like I imagine that's what they do all the time. They've probably got
it kind of ties into our other interest, doesn't it? We don't know necessarily what goes on behind the scenes in boardrooms and when people draw out contracts and and all that sort of stuff. There's lots of speculation out there, especially this time of year, and people get all excited about transfer rumors, whether it be football, whether it be people transferring from AEW to WWE or vice versa. I mean, in terms of wrestling, there's a lot of excitement in the air anyway with this, and we'll lead on to this in just a minute with the Jordan Grace match, where the promotions intertwining somewhat. So again, it's an interesting time, but again, we'll say it's an interesting thing that these contracts, and seemingly so many of them, are running out at such a normally these sort of things in the past have been sorted out well in advance. But I mean, like I said, we'll probably get onto Raw in a bit. I mean, it's reported that Ricochet had his last day yesterday in the company. So, I mean, some of the reporting of the contract length is a little bit broad. It's a little bit vague, but it's just what comes out, isn't it?
Yeah, I do think there is more. I've got that in my other business, but I do think there is more to that one than may meet the eye, because there's some comments that have been made by other wrestlers and stuff. So, so I do think there is more than that, than potentially just rumours, to be honest. And I do think having seen Raw yesterday and what happened there, it does kind of almost lead you to thinking what I'm thinking anyway. But we'll get to that. So again, I thought this is what they imagined and they wanted to get out of Underground, is that both wrestlers look really dangerous and ruthless, and it's hard hitting. I imagine that's what the whole idea of NXT Underground is. It's no ropes. It's the anything goes, like, kind of, because the match was ended by like a wrestler not being able to carry on. So it is kind of
like shoot style, tap out style, submission, all that sort of stuff, right?
It's kind of more leading towards a UFC type kind of wrestling stipulation almost.
Isn't it a pity that in that sort of type match, then, being that they were in the UFC arena, they couldn't put it in the octagon?
Yeah, crazy thought, because that I think could really do some damage in terms of like the NXT Underground stipulation. But then
I might be leading into the brutality of the brawl for all of the Attitude Era here, and when I'm talking about wrestlers doing proper wrestling, if you understand what I mean, it's almost tongue in cheek, but.
I do think that's a really great idea, though, in the future. I do think like that's how we were talking last week about how the UFC and the WWE cross over. And I do potentially think that would be an idea that everybody will be down for, I certainly think it would get the fans more excited with this kind of underground situation that they've got going.
Yeah.
We've
seen other stipulations. I remember like a Lion's Den match and the fighting pit and all that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm going through stipulations that have gone long years gone by now, but they have seen alternatives, like without the wrestling ring. I can even remember a brawl of some description when there's might have been Blackman and Shamrock, perhaps. Might have been when they were surrounded by a load of cars. This is way back. This is going way back. But yeah, it's kind of fun having something a bit different. Too bad Rickman's gone. Yeah. I understand they're not very high on him.
But yeah, it's a shame, isn't it? Because we don't get much in terms of stipulations that we haven't seen before, or match setups that we haven't seen before. I don't think we get a massive amount of variety in the current wrestling market with things like that. So I certainly do think there's room for that. So going on very quickly, the North American Championship match was a really good match. Overfemi retained, and just he's building himself as this sort of monster each time he wrestles. So he actually, at one stage, to pick up the win, he actually picked up both of them and powerbombed both of them. CA, just a monster. I do think it was over maybe quicker than it could have been, because it didn't really give chance for Wesley or Joe Coffey to kind of show much. Normally in like a triple threat, you kind of need all your wrestlers to be in an equal almost, to make it a little bit exciting and think, right, anyone could win this. But from the start, you knew what was going to happen.
They need the chance to shine. They need normally when the triple threat works, it normally you've got two in the ring and one on the outside, don't you?
Yeah.
So it's unusual for that to not happen, so to speak.
If Matt Ridder's around, do you think we would have gotten backstage fight with CM Punk?
I think Matt Riddle would have got himself in a backstage fight with Bill Goldberg or someone else beforehand.
Yeah.
By calling everybody bro.
I do, yeah. I do think it's one of those ones, when I look back, I do think it's one of those ones that WWE made him into a bit of a gimmick. And that gimmick isn't really what he's made for. A little bit like Matt Cardona, like they made him into a bit of a laughing stock, didn't they? But now you look at him and he's just dominating around the globe in terms of indie wrestling, and so I imagine that's a little bit like what Matt Riddle is. Like he needs to come away from that kind of gimmicky, like laughing stock that WWE do make some people. So right, we'll get to the important bit of the pay-per-view. So obviously we're all really excited about the NXT TNA crossover. On reflection of the match, I thought the match was amazing, the match of the night, but I do feel that it was a missed opportunity letting Roxanne retain the title, because I had in my head that it would have been a great story if Jordana Grace had won it. Then Roxanne would have had to gone over TNA to TNA to get it back, and I thought that would have been a great sort of way to really cement this partnership almost, and have like it just made sense to me in terms of I just think it would have made NXT really exciting if your champion, if your ex-champion has got to go on to a different brand to bring the title back to NXT. And I just thought it would have been. So I think that was a missed opportunity. I
can respond. To this. Because, like you said, I've seen bits of this. So I know it was a really good match, really excellent showing by both.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the fact that the finish wasn't clean and there was interference in there as well kind of leads me to think it wasn't necessarily a surprise that the title didn't change hands there, but maybe there's a longer story to say here. Perhaps, as you just said, Roxanne could very easily show up at Impact, couldn't she?
Mm-hmm.
And
take the title.
So they've fought for the WWE NXT title in this match. What about just say Roxanne could go to TNA and wrestle in an upcoming pay-per-view for their title, for the Knockouts title.
Mm-hmm.
And then the story can go on. And then perhaps you've got a potential unification match. Potential. Mm-hmm. But again, whether that's on the cards or not, it's maybe a starting of a storyline which could go a lot further. And from what we're hearing, there's lots of talent that are interested in coming back and forth. And that's exciting.
It is, because it builds that sort of excitement where you've got, obviously they're always going to work together, but it builds that excitement further down the line when actually NXT might be competing with TNA in terms of you could have a crossover pay-per-view with a wrestler from TNA fighting an NXT, or like you've got so many options. I just hope that they do it in the right way, in the way that, because I guess there's more to gain from TNA being in NXT than there is in NXT being in TNA. That's no disrespect to TNA at all, but I think that's just the facts. But that's not to say that some of the NXT talent that aren't getting much TV time, they could go and excel in TNA and build their career up to the next level. So I do think there's massive opportunities for both. And like I said, I just hope that they use it in a way that makes it exciting for all of us.
And for the TV audience as well, because they're not necessarily going up against each other in the TV ratings, I don't believe.
No, not at all.
So what that means is that, say, some of the WWE talent goes on to TNA, and if it's well advertised as well, so coming up on Impact, we've got this person. Now, if that's advertised, you might think, oh, yeah, I might go over and watch that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you might have issues there with TV companies as well. Obviously, there's lots of admin to do on TV companies and paperwork and stuff like that. But if that's how the partnership's going to work, why couldn't it work?
Yeah, I just think it's really exciting, and like I say, I really hope they use it to the full potential. I'm not saying that they should watch this video and do as we say. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying just as a wrestling fan, like away from this channel, I really do hope that they do it right, because to me it's just exciting, something new.
Yeah. What a pity, by the way, with Jordan Grace with her all her ear piercings. Did you see the aftermath of the match? I think one of the rings got pulled out, and unfortunately, she's having to retire some of the ring attire.
Yeah, I think she's very brave in the first place, keeping it on in the match, because just so unpredictable, isn't it? So that's the first.
I know all about piercings. My one's very difficult to conceal.
I would, but yeah, it's.
I love delivering like lines like that. It's fun.
It's one of those, isn't it? That obviously you don't really think it's going to happen, then it did. So if you didn't see, it got ripped out very early into the match.
Gross.
Which would have been very, very painful. That's why I would never get piercings. What if I get into a fight?
Yeah.
Fair enough. So,
what you need is a pole to defend yourself. Pow, 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 pow.
So we had a really interesting match. Obviously, like I say, the match of the night for me, I'm a little bit shocked that they didn't put it as the main event, to be honest. For me, it should have been the main event of the pay-per-view. It's the biggest selling point of Battleground as a whole, I believe. So I was a little bit disappointed that it wasn't the main event, and it's kind of the co-main event. As we've alluded to, it was kind of a poor finish. But again, I don't think that hindered how good the match was. There was a surprise appearance from Ash by Excellence, or as you might know her, Dana Brooke.
Right, okay.
Because Tatum Paxley tried to steal the Knockout Championship, and then in aid of Jordana Grace, Ash by Excellence came out, kind of distracted her, which allowed Jordana Grace to smack her over the head with the title, which normally would have got you a disqualification, but it's a bit of a weird one because it's not the title you're fighting for. So it's kind of a one where kayfabe exists and
it does.
Rules don't exist, so you can kind of get away with it.
Right. Gotcha.
So yeah, hopefully, like I say, hopefully this is just the start of the partnership between the two of them. And then we went on to the main event, which was really short. Trick Williams looked like a different beast when he came into the match. He did retain it.
This is against Ethan Page, right?
Yeah. So
good. I remembered the name. Thank Christ for that.
So Ethan Page did give like all that he had. He kind of hit Trick with loads of shots. He kind of controlled the match almost for pretty much a lot of it. He went to pin Trick Williams, didn't get the free count, kind of got up and went crazy at the referee like they do. That allowed Trick to kind of recover quickly and hit his finisher. Like I say, Pace did have a little bit more of the action, but Trick just picked his moments and was good when he needed to be. Yeah, like I said, I put here, I feel that the match between Jordana Grace and Roxanne Perez should have been the main event, as it was the main selling point of the pay-per-view, but obviously it wasn't.
Yeah.
Again, the kind of main event was underwhelming. It was okay, but it wasn't great. So, yeah, I think they missed the trick in terms of the arena setup and the main event. So, yeah. So
I missed the trick. Sorry, you missed what I said. Never mind.
Oh, yeah, but I missed the trick. It's almost like I did it on purpose, but I didn't.
It's one of my jokes, that is.
So
from the Schooner Gathering playbook.
Yeah, completely don't realise that you made a joke until somebody points it out. I'd have never known that. So
there you go. That's the sort of comedy I like.
So my overall opinion of this pay-per-view was that it was okay. It was not bad, but it wasn't amazing by any stretch. I do feel that I expected much more from the matches, but how they played out weren't amazing. The two best matches were the Underground and the Women's Championship. The Women's Ladder match was the surprise result. I do feel, though, that they missed a trick not having more TNA surprise entrances during the matches. I do feel they could have done more with that as well.
What about if it was in the Tokyo Dome? That automatically gives you a few extra stars, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I don't think it would be great on WWE's branding, though, to be honest, if they just set up camp in a different promotions arena. But there we go.
Anything can happen in the World Wrestling Federation.
I suppose it can, since we've had this crossover. So I do feel that the Apex holds nowhere near the atmosphere of the Performance Center. I wouldn't want to see this become a regular thing, as it reminded me of when we was watching wrestling during lockdown, when we had no crowds. The acoustics were not set up well for the crowd. They sounded non-existent on most of the matches, despite the crowd actually trying their best. That was my thoughts on Battleground. It's frustrating because I think when NXT have a pay-per-view in the weekend where there isn't any main roster pay-per-views, you've got a massive chance to stake a claim for people to watch your pay-per-view and your programming going forward. So I do believe they've missed a trick making it kind of okay, but not amazing, because like me or Jordan that watches NXT anyway would have watched this pay-per-view. But for example, like yourself or Posh or anyone else that kind of isn't tied down to NXT as such, I don't think it would have brought you off your seat to go, oh my God, I've got to watch NXT now and what goes on. So I do think they've missed a trick in that sense, to be honest.
Bit of wasted opportunity, perhaps, on a free weekend, especially when you've got a big weekend coming up this weekend.
Yeah, I do feel with that kind of excitement that they had with Jordana Grace coming in, I think that was when it spiked. And it was when you, Posh and everyone else, kind of, for that week, NXT was on the map for you all. But then
very much so.
By not taking advantage of that in this pay-per-view, it's kind of dropped again and gone back to the level that it was before that excitement factor. So it's a little bit of a shame, but it is what it is. While you're here, I did want to talk about, I'm going to skip SmackDown and Dynamite for now. I did want to talk about the Who Killed WCW Vice documentary.
Nice.
It was on last week. So I did think I was going to struggle to find it, but the powers of the internet made me find it and able to watch it.
Completely officially.
Oh, yeah, 100%. That's the only way that things roll on this channel.
It's a shame we're not sponsored by a VPN, isn't it?
It is, because this would be the perfect moment. This is where you get 20% off said VPN.
Code WrestleDawgs.
Yeah, with the code WrestleDawgs. That would be... it would be. But,
I'll get in touch with my contact, shall I?
Yeah, any VPN holders or companies that might be watching, we are free to be sponsored.
Yeah.
Just you know where to find us.
And if you've got any money as well, don't forget to hit the Patreon. The link's above my head. Patreon.com/WrestleDawgs.
It's almost like we pay for this, but we don't.
No. As I told you in the chat, mate, I'm a professional broadcaster.
So,
the things I do for this channel, the behind-the-scenes stuff that's gone on today.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the other news. If it wasn't, I wouldn't have had that bit of information that we went on before. So, it was really good. Most of it was kind of dialogue between Bischoff. A lot of it was dialogue with Bischoff, to be fair, and lots of the other people that were involved. So it kind of showed his transition from not being involved in wrestling at all to the kind of rise of WCW and him getting involved in that. Then went on to kind of make clear of the NWO coming around.
Yeah.
And their kind of dominance and kind of propelling WCW to heights that they hadn't been at before because of the NWO. Merch was starting to sell from them in people that weren't wrestling fans. It's become quite I don't know, it still is, isn't it? It's become quite a brand in itself almost.
You still see people sporting the black and white, don't you?
Yeah, for sure.
Like you said, the old Too Sweet and all that sort of stuff, it's everywhere. It's how Bullet Club have kind of evolved, isn't it, really? Yeah. In a way, that rogue kind of faction. I mean, and like you said, names that the people outside of wrestling would have known. Everyone back in the 1990s knew who Hulk Hogan was. And when the biggest name in the business jumped over to WCW, it's no surprise that the ratings popped like they did. I mean, yeah, of course, Hogan was way past his pomp back then. But he performed in such a style that was so different, it kind of freshened him up. It's a really interesting interview. Have you seen the interview? This is another one. It was Mick Foley talking to Hogan, and he was talking about post WrestleMania 9, and he won the title and everything like that, and they didn't know quite what to do with him. Actually, no, maybe it was something. But they were saying that, so obviously he went to WCW. They were talking about a potential heel turn. Actually, he's talking about WrestleMania 6 and Warrior. That's what he was doing. He was doing a bit of stuff in Hollywood. Then he came back to do the title versus title against Warrior. And then Vince says, "Oh, can you do the job for Jim?" And then he said, "Okay, where are we going after that?" And what he wanted to do, he tells the story. Now, obviously, this is Hulk Hogan, so take it with a pinch of salt. But obviously, he did the thing with his belt over his shoulder, goes into the ring, gives Warrior the belt, and then present and stuff. What he pitched to McMahon was going down the rampway, then doing a sly look back, and then decking him and going heel right then. So we could have had Hollywood Hogan at WrestleMania 6.
Yeah.
Would have been interesting, because then, of course, you got that shocking into a pay-per-view, which could have gone in another way entirely. But
yeah, so see, I don't think that. I think if he's meaning that there was Rock in the documentary, I don't think there was that much of him at all. But I do think
Dwayne in the documentary.
Yeah.
Why was Dwayne Rock Johnson in the WCW? Oh, did he produce it?
No, he spoke a little bit. I think they did try and get from a WWE angle, because I don't think they ever had any involvement with WCW, from what I believe.
No. Dwayne came in around 98.
Yeah, well, I do think it was more
Survivor Series 98, I think.
Yeah,
the Blue Chipper.
Kind of to get a perspective of how WWE saw WCW at the time it was coming up in kind of a broad sense. But I do think for me that they had, if your documentary is called Who Killed WCW, which it is, I think by having Eric Bischoff in as much as he was, is not the angle I would have gone with it, because if you are wanting to see who killed it, you need to be unsure of who did up until the end. Wow. So, obviously, for anybody, I guess, that hasn't, obviously, me and you know what happened, but I'm thinking if anyone doesn't know what happened, they don't want to hear from the person that was running it all the time. They want to hear from other people so they can build their own formulation to what actually happened.
What it needs is, you need to hear from the TNT executive, which is Ted Turner, and the people that worked underneath him, who and obviously they were getting into a position where they were running out of money. TNT didn't want to put wrestling on the American networks anymore. Without TV, you've got no product. So it's exactly the same way ECW went down at the same time. They weren't putting out their program, and it got into a position where just before WrestleMania 17, literally the whole thing collapsed. Bischoff was in the process of trying to buy it out from Ted Turner, the consortium that he had to get put together. It all failed. So who killed WCW? Well, you got a number of people. You got Ted Turner, you got Bischoff, you got Hogan, obviously creative control. You don't need me to tell you all about that. But the number of people involved in it. Yeah, very interesting story. Yeah, all off the cuff. This is, by the way, we're not scripted here.
So they did have kind of Ted Turner and stuff on the program and stuff. So it is. Go on.
I'm going to have to leave you just for a second, all right? So if you carry on, I'm just going to have to attend to Amy. I will be back. So you carry on.
So obviously we had various people speaking and stuff, and the focus very much at the end of the program was the Hogan versus Sting match, which was at Starrcade '97, and the bad ending to the match, which at the time disappointed a lot of people, got a lot of people talking, and got a lot of people putting some bad name basically on WCW for the ending.
Remind me, was that Hogan against Sting with Brett coming down?
Yeah, So
that's Brett's debut.
Yeah, so this was at the time when NWO had kind of taken over the product. So Sting was at the time trying to gain the title back from Hogan to bring it back to WCW basically, and not to NWO. So once people started talking and saying that was a really bad ending, because they'd built this match up for 12 months, I believe, or longer than that. So it was a long kind of build-up that then was this little bit of a poor ending. So everybody...
Stinger was certainly up in the rafters for about 12 months, yes. Absolutely. Yeah.
So the bad ending then culminated in Hogan taking over more creative control than he had already. Because I believe they did have a completely different ending to this match, so they said. But it was Hogan and everybody else that kind of changed it last minute. It reminded me of a very recent story where Tony Khan changed all the endings to Double or Nothing within 2 hours before the pay-per-view, so nobody knew what was really going on. It kind of reminded me of that. So
I can allude to that a little bit if you want me to, mate.
Yeah, go on.
Because I believe what was supposed to happen is there was going to be a bit of a referee bump, and then Hogan was going to do it was supposed to be a quick count on Sting. Mm-hmm. That's why, and I think I think they said no. I'm not. Brett was going to come down. I'm not having any of this, but it was a standard count. That's why there was all the controversy around it. And it made everyone look like idiots, to be honest, didn't it?
Yeah. So that was where the first episode ended, because that basically signaled on the program anyway. Obviously, they're trying to be as true as they can be. That kind of signaled what's to come in the next couple of episodes. It almost, they made out that started the downfall.
Maybe one of the contributing factors to it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I imagine over the next couple of weeks, we'll take a deeper dive into each person and how that story unfolded. But yeah, I certainly do think for me or you, it was enjoyable to watch, obviously, because you've got lots of opinions that you potentially haven't seen before.
Watching it back, mate. It's absolutely fascinating watching it back. Yeah. I mean, WCW in its closing year in the 2000s, or 99, 2000 was an absolute cluster, but you know, it's a shame for the business in a way, because obviously when at the time where the big promotions were failing and there was only WWF around, the competition wasn't really there, and maybe the product kind of suffered a little bit as a result of it. Whereas now, I feel certainly in this era we're in right now, the Fed are probably writing the best stuff that they've written for quite some time because of AEW being about.
Yeah. So I do think. So I'm kind of thinking what Vice are making the show for. I don't think they've made the show for me or you that know lots about the rise and fall of WCW. I think they made it for an audience that potentially may like wrestling, may not like wrestling, but want to see how a company. I do think they've kind of made it to fit a more general consensus, and because I think it goes into a lot of like Stussy said, I think it goes back into like a nice throwback for kind of the generation that was around for that time that maybe haven't revisited it since then. So I do
it's think almost that 18 to 24 demographic that they often talk about makes me feel very old to realize that obviously WCW died about 24 years ago, and and that's just about half my age. So So old man doing a gathering over here.
So I do. So I will keep kind of covering what goes on because I think it did enough for me, even though I already know because obviously I've seen the rise and fall of WCW on the DVD and stuff, but I do think it still did enough for me to want to go and watch the next one and kind of watch the process and see how because I imagine they're going to be very clever in terms of not pointing the finger at one person, but kind of leaving it up in the air and kind of leading you to make your own conclusions and stuff. I imagine they're going to be very clever in how they do it. But obviously we'll see. I suppose while we're here, we may as well go on to the other bit of other news. So we alluded to a little bit earlier. Ricochet apparently has told WWE that he won't be renewing his contract, just straight up won't be doing it. Apparently, we've got to say apparently in all these things because me and you weren't in that conversation. And we know the power of the internet can change things very quickly. But there has been a couple of things. Will Ospreay did go on to say that he would love to wrestle him in AEW. So again, that leads you to believe, does he know a little bit more than we do? Because obviously I'm sure there's a history between Will Ospreay and Ricochet coming up at the same time.
Documentary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they came through.
They certainly did a series of about 3 or 4, didn't they?
Yeah.
I can think of at least one of them. I can think of one when the ring broke in WCPW, actually.
Yeah,
that's a fascinating watch. If you haven't seen that, that's one to fetch up because they had to improvise a match completely on the fly. Where the boys from WCPW, I know, for example, Sam Driver, and backstage and the likes were absolutely freaking out, not knowing what to do because that rope break was not planned. When they do that Superman pose and they bounce off the ropes, it went clunk and it came out. Wow. Fascinating stuff.
I do think they're very similar wrestlers in the way that they wrestle in ring as well. They're both kind of high flyers and kind of risk takers, and I do think that could be sort of those. I hate to quote the 5-star match, but that could be one of those that we get if we get it in AEW. That could be one of those again where we see two people, because that's what I like to think with AEW. I believe that the wrestlers have got a little bit more of a say in how the matches turn out. They're kind of very much left to, here's your kind of base of what's going to happen. Here's who's going to win.
Right.
But in that meantime, you can kind of culminate the moves and stuff with each other, which I think in essence does make the best matches, which is why probably we do see in AEW where they get potentially more 5-star matches than WWE. But again, a 5-star match is just it's more of it's more of a kind of an internet thing, isn't it? Like, it's not any by means like a guide to what's good and what's bad. Even it's just someone's opinion. So I guess it's very subjective. Me and you could watch a match that somebody else said, "Oh yeah, that's 5-star," but we could be watching it and going, "Oh, very good." Like, it's very kind of a subjective thing, isn't it? But I do think that's
what
really,
wrestling should be, though. That should be, people are like what they like, and I think there's so much great wrestling out there at the moment. That's what makes this time so exciting. I'm wondering, Sam, if we should just clear up something. We're talking about Ricochet and his contract running out. Of course, he lost the Speed Championship the other day, week. I'm not sure if it's been broadcast or not yet. It probably would have done because Raw went out yesterday, didn't it? So that happened. And shall we talk about how Ricochet was kind of written off television?
Yeah. So that's what I was going to allude to next. So we kind of got to, I believe, I don't think I've got it in my notes actually, but I did read about it. They, so basically, it's
the preangle. Should I do the preangle?
Yeah. So
I believe Dragunov had a match with Big Braun Breaker. Apparently, it was an absolute barn burner. And I think, am I right in saying Breaker had won? Yeah. But then, and then, did he carry on wrecking Dragunov?
Yeah, he's been doing it for the last couple of weeks to everyone.
And then all of a sudden, here comes Ricochet to make the save, and then all of a sudden, the people were on the old Twitter machine going up at Sean Ross Sapp at Fightful saying, "But I thought he was going to leave and all this." So they're trying to build him up like, he made this big save. Maybe he's getting this big push and stuff against Braun Breaker. Well, this fight continued, didn't it, to the outside? I'll leave it to you now.
Yeah, so the fight carried on to the outside, and he just got basically annihilated. So that leads you to believe that's another kind of pointer in your plan almost. That's another pointer to say, do you know what? That maybe was WWE killing him almost, in terms of not killing him in a literal sense, but killing him in terms of there's the door, it's open, now piss off. Basically, is what they did there, pretty much.
I kind of hoped you were going to reference. It's almost like a Rey Mysterio, Kevin Nash spot from WCW. There's and it's where in this situation, Breaker kind of lawn darted Ricochet into this production truck, straight into the mush of Jimmy Hart, which I thought was so funny. And then they launched him into the car. Then of course he's got carted away. Ricochet gives the old thumbs up, which might suggest my friends over at Cultaholic are suggesting, see you on AEW. To keep it kayfabe as well, I mean, Samantha Irvine left ringside to go with Ricochet to the local medical facility.
Basically drove him to Tony Khan's front door and say, he's yours now. Do what you want.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So yeah, that was that. I suppose we best talk about Raw. No, let's just quickly go through SmackDown. So nothing really happened on SmackDown. There's a new member of Bloodline, Tonga Lower.
Tonga Lower, yes. He's Tonga Lower.
So it's a little bit weird because as I was reading the notes, because I didn't watch SmackDown, so obviously I had Battleground to watch and stuff. So I was reading the notes and I was thinking, Tonga Lower. I was thinking, is that somebody new or is that just
up in from New Japan Wrestling, mate? That's where Tonga was from.
But it's just a play on, I guess. In my mind, it was a play on that Tama Tonga had come in weeks before. So It was just one of those weird things that names matched, and I was like, "Oh, what's going on here?" But yeah, there is someone new. Tama Tonga was then named as Solo Sikoa's right-hand man. Kevin Owens then attacks them, but then in very slow fashion, the Street Profits then come out to his aid. Did take an age though, so
good through that entrance, you know.
Yeah, Grayson Waller defeated Gargano. Cody came into the ring and demanded that AJ Styles come and face him. Anderson Gallows and AJ arrive. AJ does not care what Cody wants. Cody suggested an I Quit match, and then Nick Aldis made that match official. So that adds to the Clash in the Castle pay-per-view. And then the KO and the Street Profits won by disqualification against the Bloodline. But the Bloodline did put KO through the table in during the match, so it was won by DQ rather than in a normal setting. Quickly moving on to this week's Raw. This week's Raw was handwritten notes. This is where the effort really got typed. It's handwritten. So Drew starts off Raw again. I feel that we're just on it feels like Groundhog, the film Groundhog Day. It almost feels like that because every week, apart from last week, I believe Drew started the show for the last 5 or 6 weeks at least. So obviously we've got the normal CM Punk chants that happens when Drew comes out. He said, I don't care because in 5 days, you're going to have a new champion. Damien and Judgment Day came out and making excuses, Drew. You've made it personal. I'm heading into your territory in front of your people, defend your title, all the same sort of spiel that you normally get. But he did say that...
You're not sounding like you're into this feud, mate.
What?
You're not sounding like you're into this feud.
No, not really. I just feel it's quite lazy, isn't it? Like
you're talking to someone who you know when you were seeing that heel Triple H come out for every 20 minutes of Raw. It's the way to stop. You know, people are umming and ahhing about the pay-per-view. It's a way to try and sell it, isn't it? So and it's kind of set up the main event, of course, isn't it? I believe.
Yeah, it's a way to obviously sell Clash in the Castle with Drew being involved because he's from Scotland and stuff like that. Ideally, I don't think this is what the WWE would have wanted at this time. I imagine if CM Punk was fit and raring to go, they would have had a point where CM Punk had the title and then he would have fought Drew at Clash in the Castle. And I believe that's what they would have wanted to happen. But obviously that was taken out of their hands. So I do somewhat empathise with them for that because I don't think this is the story that they wanted to go with. I think it was one that was forced on them almost due to injuries and other stuff.
And the way I feel it might end, because I don't feel that Drew's going to win the title in Scotland. I know it might cause a bit of an uproar. To be honest. But I mean, can you really see him taking it off Priest at this early stage?
I wouldn't want it to happen, to be honest.
No, you can continue the story with Punk here, can't you? That's the thing.
Yeah.
And Drew versus Punk doesn't necessarily need the title step on it, does it?
Oh no, definitely not. I think the amount of time that they've built this up, I think this would look better without a title and with an added stipulation than fighting for a title, because it's been built up for so long and the fans want it so much that it would be better off if they could build up a complete story with it and carry it on from where they have, rather than it be, I want to take the title off you. Because again, we alluded to that last week, and sometimes, like you say, matches don't need to have a title behind them, because then the story is very limited. Whereas when you haven't got one, the story's whatever you want to make it. There
Might be the bigger thing.
Yeah.
Let's just hope that this story doesn't end at Clash of the Castle with Drew singing along with Tyson Fury like last year in Wales. Because crikey, if the social media, what I've seen from Tyson Fury over the weekend, he's not going to be any sort of state to do it anyway.
No. I certainly
think that controversial. I'm breaking the fourth wall.
No, I do still think he's probably dazed from the amount of punches he took in his fight, to be honest. When after the fight, he said Merry Christmas. So, yeah, I don't think he's in any fit state to be anywhere at the moment.
The amount of drink he probably had probably didn't help either.
No. And passing out when he came out of a club the other day also isn't fantastic. But
reportedly.
No, there's pictures of it. There's pictures.
I know, I've seen it too.
There's pictures of it. You can't get away with saying reportedly. There's actual genuine.
Oh, fine!
So, yeah.
I'll take you all on!
It's almost like what would happen if me and you and all of us on here decided to have 20 pints and think we are Tyson Fury coming out of the pub.
Is that a challenge for this summer's bank holiday?
No.
Because I remember you said you're coming to Chelmsford. Are you challenging me, son?
No, because I won't get very far. It's only going to end. It's only going to end in one way, and that's very badly. And
you can give it to you live on patreon.com/WrestleTalks.
Drew Punk cost Drew the title and proceeds to play Broken Dreams on the stadium speaker. And blows a fist to his wife. That's, to be honest, that's good. That would be good TV. So,
what a theme that is, by the way. I listen to Broken Dreams on a regular basis. It's a wonderful song.
Yeah. So, we culminated in saying that Damian Priest doesn't need the Judgment Day, and that if Drew was able to beat Finn in the main event, that the Judgment Day would be barred from ringside at the Castle.
Right.
So, we then pan to the whole Liv and Dom storyline, which...
Bit rated R, that, isn't it, mate?
It is. So, basically, what... it's heating up each week because this week Liv basically said she wasn't a big fan of any man calling someone else mummy. So she wanted to change that, and that she was willing to call him daddy. So it was all a bit of a weird story arc.
I mean, even Ed and Lita didn't get that far. Blinking hell.
Yeah. So she then went to give him a hotel key and kind of said, "Here's my hotel key if you want it." Dom then kind of threw it on the table. But to be honest, if I was given that invitation, I certainly wouldn't be thinking twice. I think Dom's a very fortunate man to be.
He's on the market, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Sam Wilson with a 1 in the after the W. Hit him up.
He's in a very fortunate position at the moment, and I certainly wouldn't mind being in.
He found himself in an unfortunate position during this matchup.
Yeah, Yeah. So then it kind of, culminated in all the Judgment Day coming around and saying, what was the card for, and I don't think you should take it, and it was all a little bit weird after that.
Maybe it's for catering. Who knows?
Yeah.
All you can eat buffet.
So Sami Zayn and Chad Gable had exchanged words before their match at Clash in the Castle. There's a bigger story arc in that Sami Zayn is still talking to Chad Gable's crew and saying you shouldn't be with him and that he's taking the mick out of you and whatever. So Sami then takes on Otis in a match and wins because there was an interference on Gable, and I think he was calling Otis all sorts of names, and then Sammy was able to take advantage of that. We've alluded to before, Braun Breaker beats Dragunov. Last couple of weeks, he's just been tearing through everyone. I imagine that's an angle they keep up for a while. Awesome Truth defeated Authors of Pain in a tag match, which was weird to me because if you put...
I forgot all about AOP, mate. Jesus.
Yeah. If you put Miz and R-Truth against Authors of Pain, you would never think that Awesome Truth would be coming out as winners.
I think Awesome Truth as a comedy team, and I think of AOP as a bit of a brawling brutes kind of situation. Do you know what I mean? Cut the storytelling. They should beat the pulp out of them.
Literally. So I don't know how they managed to come out of that, but they did.
That's
and then the main event was Drew and Finn. Drew did beat Finn, so the Judgment Day are barred from Saturday's match.
Let's not forget, of course, the superb ring announcing that was done in this matchup. Because Samantha Irvine was taken out in the hospital. So Pat McAfee steps up on that announce table and declares some big boy from Glasgow or something like that. And then how did he refer to Finn? As something about the dumbass Judgment Day with 0% body fat. A bit like me.
Yeah, like me too.
Yeah. This is all we are.
Chris
Masters.
I think sometimes the WWE superstars must look at us as a channel and think, you know what? I wish that we had bodies like they do.
This ain't no make believe.
This is the bit that
you need to mention the big angle at the with Liv and Dom right at the end, don't you?
Oh, not really. It's just
no.
It's
poor Dom couldn't stand up for a while afterwards.
Yeah, it was interesting to start off with, but I think it's getting less and less interesting now, as I think they're starting to overdo it a little bit. So yeah, we'll see how that goes on. Interesting.
It's almost like you don't want to talk about the finish of the match.
It's risky business, isn't it, all this? Because at some point, we could potentially say the wrong thing in terms of all of this going on. I think
Liv got knocked over out of the ring, and Dom was very kind to catch her.
Yeah, that's a nice way of putting it. I do wonder what's next in that whole storyline, to be honest.
It's reminding me of Trish Stratus.
Yeah.
Old school Trish Stratus, you know?
It's it runs the angle of very much Attitude Era type storyline, which is great.
It's past generational though, isn't it? It's a bit what is going on here kind of thing.
I do think the problem is it will be very filtered now, so they've got to be very careful in how they take it, because again, they're in quite awkward. Yeah, I think but WWE do have to be very careful, because they could soon put themselves in hot waters if they do something wrong, potentially. Not saying that they will, but I just think it's one of those ones that me and you find exciting because it reminds us of past things.
Yeah,
but the past was very different to now, and
isn't it? You think it's interesting in terms of Liv Morgan getting some storyline and some background and stuff like that for her development of her character? Do you think that's interesting?
I do, because I'm very pleased that they've done it, because she's been someone that's been on the fringes for an awful amount of time, and has been underused for a long time. So I'm really pleased that they're pushing her up to this point, because I think this only builds, each time they're building this up, this only builds more onto the storyline of when Rhea comes back and stuff.
Yeah.
And we are kind of building that longer story arc, which is really interesting, I think.
And when she does come back, the pop she's going to get is just going to be huge. I was actually rewatching the WrestleMania match with Becky this last week, and my goodness, she's an absolute superstar. Rhea Ripley is without doubt main event material in terms of the whole company. She's got everything.
That match for me was my favorite match of the whole weekend.
Absolutely outstanding.
I do think they could have. It was that good that they could have put it at the end of either card. Well, maybe not the second night, but they certainly could have put it at the end of the first night, and that wouldn't have looked out of place. It was that good.
Both of them look absolute megastars.
Oh, it's insane! It was an incredible matchup. So this is. I'm pleased you've actually come on for this bit, because the next thing is the laughing stock that was AEW Dynamite again at the start of their programming on Wednesday.
Okay.
So, you may have there was a lot of chat about this in our group chat. So MJF basically comes out at the start of the show. I did note that he's looking less orange than he did when he came out for Double or Nothing. Which is good. The tan's kind of worn off a little bit, and he's looking less like Madge from Benidorm. So it's perfect for him. So the crowd pop was nuts, as it is when he comes out at any stage, and announces he's back and promotes his new merch, which I was watching a Courtaholic video yesterday, and AEW are in trouble a little bit at the moment.
I saw this. Yeah.
Due to the merch, the picture on the merch being AI generated, apparently. Yeah. So the fans are not happy that AEW itself haven't made it. They've copied it and put it onto a t-shirt. I believe that's the story behind it. Because then
there a bit of a connection with the lone wolf kind of thing, and the obviously there's already a lone wolf in the WWE in Baron Corbin, right?
Yeah. So I do, but I did.
I can't believe I got this.
The more exciting thing that was mentioned was Courtaholic's AI video that they did with the wrestlers' theme songs. If you haven't seen it, you must.
It's insane and it's hilarious.
It was one of the. It was
never as a truer word. Never as a truer word been spoken about the immortal Hulk Hogan. I can tell you.
Yeah, it was. I remember first seeing it, and I remember I think it was Barry on our group chat said, "Right, everybody, you must go and watch that." And it was one of those ones that I was wetting myself. But you can see that I think it was Adam and
Sam.
Yeah, it was Adam and Sam, and they were as equally as like shocked and laughing about it as we were, because obviously they didn't know what was coming either. It was a very off the cuff kind of moment for them. So I think that makes
these things work. As a musician myself, it's quite frightening. But they corrected the song in about 5 seconds with the very basic text in the box.
Yeah.
I think they said that a song about Hulk Hogan and his controversial past or something.
Yeah, it is. I don't want to ruin it too much, just in case anyone wants to watch it, because you need to go into it having not knowing anything about it, else you just won't be the same, because it's just fantastic. So,
tell you what I'll do, Sam.
Yeah.
What I'll do, I will put the link for that video as you carry on. I'll try and put the link of that video. I've got it I'll put it in the chat so everyone can see it. Once you're done watching us here, watch this video because it's incredible.
Yeah, it's just so comical. It's just amazing. I was actually at it. You know, when you really belly laugh, and you really laugh, that was what happened. And I don't do that very often, so it was really nice to
absolutely
have those moments because it was just unbelievable. So back to the promo. So he said, "I'm here to put everyone on notice," and announces that he will be back in the ring wrestling at Forbidden Door. He then goes on to diss Okada, Swerve, and then Will Ospreay. This is the interesting part of this. So he calls Will not by his name, but he calls him a Cockney cockhead. And he then goes on to doing the worst accent of Will Ospreay ever. To me, it sounded more like Buzz Lightyear than Will Ospreay, to be honest.
Yeah, it's probably fair.
Which not good, really. He says that he also does that while screwing up his mouth. So he's really, really trying to get this Essex tone to his voice, and it's just not at all.
He needs to come to me for some lessons, doesn't he?
He needs to come to anybody for some lessons because that was just shocking.
Yeah.
So the crowd actually sounded more Essex than he did when he was doing his impression while saying bruv, which was, a little bit embarrassing. He then
There's a big difference, by the way, of Essex boys and Cockneys, let's be fair.
Yeah.
Hi, Shane, if you're watching, mate.
Yeah, because there was we'll allude to that a little bit in our group chat. Obviously we have people from this country in the group chat and people from across the pond in the States.
Of course.
Yeah, there was a heated response, but it could have turned into a heated response that was very quickly disarmed and put in its place very quickly, because there was comparison to the Cockney and Essex, in that the Cockney / Essex is a bit like saying something to do with Canada and Essex, and basically that was how far different that Cockney and Essex's was. And I kind of had to, I don't like to take sides, but I did have to step in at that point and say, I'm not sure it's the same as a completely different country, because they are very close in geographical terms. They are fairly close. Yes, there is a difference, but I don't think it's that much of a difference.
I mean, it'll be like me going, I'm going to be going up the apples and pears, ain't I? Yeah?
Yeah.
But
I suppose for Americans, that's probably how they think everyone in the UK talks, not just people in London. So, I don't know. So he then went on to call Will Ospreay Willie, which was again just amazing banter.
Highbrow stuff, this, isn't it?
Yeah, top class. The higher echelon of what we would call banter. So he then said, obviously called him Willie. He then said that you are not Chris Jericho, you are not Moxley, you are not Cody Rhodes, you are not Ricochet. And I'm thinking, not sure I agree with that comparison as well, because I'm pretty sure Will Ospreay is as good as some of them, if not better. So again, that didn't work, because I was like, well, you're just lying there. Because he just he listed off a list just to say that I've beat them all, as he does. I was a little bit, I was a little bit disappointed because normally that's what MJF is good at, really good at his in-ring kind of promo work. So I was really disappointed that he had to come to the levels of saying that Will Ospreay was a disgusting British, crooked, yellow-stained teeth. I was a bit disappointed that he had to go to those levels in order to sound a bit badass, and it just makes him look silly, to be honest.
He definitely brushed his teeth, so that's really unfair.
I just think
dental hygiene's important, ladies and gentlemen.
It is. I do think
Yankum DDS.
I think the whole point of a promo, though, is to put someone at a bit of unease, isn't it? So Will Ospreay would have been sat at home in London or wherever he was, or Essex, or Canada, or wherever he might be.
In the next flat next to me, mate.
Yeah.
He's about ready to knock me out.
Yeah, that would be nice. He would have just laughed. He wouldn't have been scared of MJF. He wouldn't have been, so he would have just laughed.
You take no more of this nonsense, son. Bang.
Yeah, so he says, watch your tone, check your mouth, because silly Billy, you ain't the best in the world, bruv. I am.
That's disappointing. If that's the delivery, man.
Yeah,
I think he's better than that. Let's be honest. He's done better stuff.
Yeah, to be honest, I'll put what an embarrassing promo. It's just not good. But
you're playing 2K and you're rating it embarrassing promo 1 star.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't think it'd have even got 1 star. I think it'd have got half of one. So, thankfully, he was interrupted by El Toro Blanco before he could say any more jibes at British people. He then called... and then he fought back a little bit, which I was really pleased at, because he said, much like these stupid, filthy, ugly Americans, you never shut up. So I was like, yeah, go on. Power to the people and all that.
Wow, there's a reference. I understand it too. Nice one.
Listen to me when you've been gone. I've been here working hard, wrestling, winning. You got a big celebration coming back. Where is my celebration? Where is my big moment? I'm going to take your spot. MJF says, can you hear him at all? The crowd chants no. Can you give us that again? So he starts talking and MJF shouts, nobody gives a shit. So I thought that was quite cool. He redeemed himself in a moment and a little bit there.
Right.
So a little bit of a fight back, which it just still doesn't go on to how bad the first promo was. So he said, this is where AEW went off the cuff a little bit. They said, you come out here in your dime store suit, making your bank account look dry like every woman you've ever slept with.
Oh,
so yeah.
Yuck. Wow.
Yeah. So AEW...
Again, highbrow content here.
Yeah. So MJF and AEW were kind of digging themselves a hole and digging deeper and deeper and deeper. So...
Not good.
Yeah. It's not good. So he then... After he said that, it was weird because he then went on to praise El Toro Blanco, which was really weird. And then he wasn't done with the impressions because then he said in Mexican something and then did a Mexican style MJF, I'm the best and you know it. So again, that was just terrible.
He didn't do Olay at the end of it, no?
I don't know what he did an Ariba and all sorts. So it's just not good.
No.
So yeah, that was quickly forgotten about, thankfully, and we moved on. That Ospreay was going to be in a title match with Ray Phoenix for next week. Christopher Daniels then came out and told us that a new TNT champion will be decided in the ladder match at Forbidden Door.
Looks like no one jumps off a cage or anything and breaks their leg doing that.
No, let's hope not. I don't want anyone else on the shelf. So there was then a qualifying match for that ladder match where Mark Briscoe beat Brian Cage.
Nice. I like that. I like that. Briscoe deserves it.
So that means that we've got a couple of people in that match now, and obviously over the next, I think Forbidden Door is the week after Clash in the Castle.
Mm-hmm.
So they've got a couple of weeks to put a few more people in there. So there was a match for Forbidden Door that was, now I think about it, a little bit of a cop-out because they were just copying what NXT had done with the Knockouts champion, TNA. And you'll find out. So Forbidden Door match was announced that Mercedes Moné, obviously the TBS champion from AEW, will be facing Stephanie
McMahon.
Yeah, it's not McMahon.
No.
Vaca. I don't know which one it is. So basically, she is the New Japan Women's Strong Style Champion. So, yes, it's Forbidden Door. Yes, they bring both NJWP together with AEW for this pay-per-view. I just feel it's a little bit... a little bit shit because people aren't that excited about it.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. I don't know. Right. Don't know much about. Right. Okay. No, I can't really add too much on this at all without doing extensive Google searching.
It's a bit lazy, isn't it? Because obviously we've had this whole NXT and TNA crossover, and it's just a little bit late.
Mercedes Moné does have a previous run as IWGP Women's Champion, hasn't she? Mm-hmm. The shortest reign in the history of the company. So
it is title for title though, so it is slightly different. So they are, I believe, title for title means that they're facing each other for both titles, doesn't it?
That sounds what title for title means to me.
So they have done a slightly different angle. So how that will play out, we're not sure. So Swerve beats Roderick Strong to retain the title. But then at the end, this is really unfortunate news. At the end of the show, Bryan Danielson does cut a promo to say that it will be his final year of pro wrestling. And that it will be his last chance to fight for the AEW title in the upcoming Owen Hart Memorial Men's Tournament. Which, it's a really sad day for everybody involved in wrestling because that's one of the most talented wrestlers certainly of my generation. It will go down in history of one of the best, I would imagine. So it's just such a shame to see a career cut so short like his has been, obviously with injury and stuff. And
at least with him, he's had his big moments, hasn't he? And a headline of a WrestleMania for a start from an indie darling who went to the game show NXT, and I think that going into that, knowing full well they'd sign him up anyway, that's why they paired him with Jericho, and that's why they did the match on that NXT. If you haven't seen that match, watch it.
I feel that I'm really pleased, for matches' sake, that we've been able to see Ospreay and Danielson in the same company at the same time and in a match, because I think that will go down as one of my favourite matches of all time, because it was just so good, because you had two of the best of this generation just going at it, and it was just amazing. It was one of those matches that was like I don't know, like a Rock Cena type match, or like one of those ones that goes down as it's just fortunate that they were both around at the same time and that match was able to happen sort of moments.
I'll add as well, if Danielson can go out on his own terms rather than being forced out the door, you know, this is the way he would have wanted to do it. Obviously went through a long period without being in the ring, despite numerous attempts, I think, in WWE to get back in. So look, he's had a great run. He had a great finish up in WWE, and you know, and AEW has been interesting for him. He's been he's never.
I think it will be a good end. I do think it will be a good end if they find a way to give him the championship before he bows out. To be honest, I do think that would. Not that he needs to win it. I don't think he needs to win it at all, because his accolades that he's already got speak volumes. But I just think it would be a nice way for him to bow out and say, yeah, that's... And then it would be a nice... It's almost like one of those... I don't know. It's almost like one of those passing the torch moments, isn't it? Where he can identify someone from AEW or New Japan or wherever he might take this title and say, look, I'm handing it over to you, and here's the baton. Because I do think he'll go on and carry still on working for AEW in a creative sense. He's very highly thought of by AEW and stuff. So yeah, that is all that I have on my notes. I did think it was going to be a longer one than normal. I do think if we'd have had any more guests, we would have been on for longer than we have. So I do think that we've been quite fortunate that it is only a few of us, because we did have a lot to speak about. Before we finish, I do kind of just want to say that me and Carl have been speaking. He's taken a step back from these lives for a little bit to put all his focus on the amazing videos that come out to the channel that you get to enjoy. But me and him will be back on Saturday for a live stream of Clash in the Castle, being it of normal time. Starts 5, I believe. So we shall be on here, me and Kyle, for sure. But obviously, I'll be extending the offer to everyone in the group chat. I just wanted to okay it with Carl and stuff first. So you'll see us back on Saturday. I was going to do the SmackDown before and stream it, but you shall find me on Gooner Gathering for Germany and Scotland instead. So SmackDown we shall enjoy at our own leisure, and then the day after we'll be on this channel for the pay-per-view. So yeah, that's all that I have got, really, without talking a load of stuff that almost reminiscent of that promo from MJF. So, when I find the fancy banner, come on, show me the fancy banner. We have this banner. I'm going to pass it over to you. Where can they find you? A little bit of a clue on the screen there for you.
There we go. So you normally find me on the Gooner Gathering YouTube channel, which obviously Sam is a massive part of as well. As he's alluded to, we're going to be on the air on Friday for Germany versus Scotland. We had a very interesting stream yesterday regarding what happened after England versus Iceland. If you haven't watched that, rewatch it, because it's a good discussion. It's an important one that needs to be said. And to get in touch with me, find me, of course, Gooner Gathering on YouTube, at Gooner Lee Meads, at Gooner Gathering on X. Thank you very much for having me, mate.
No, that's all good. So, a couple of places that you can find me. Very on and off on this platform currently. I need to get a schedule set up. But you can find me on Twitch, just messing around. You can find me on Instagram, Sam Wilson AFC. You can see everything that I get up to. We have a Patreon, as we've alluded to before. That's the link to it as well, so you've got it in two places. We have got an Instagram and a Facebook if you want to follow that. We're hoping that I can take creative control of the Instagram soon if we can get it set up correctly, so that we can be more active on there in promoting videos that go up on the channel from Kyle's end and our lives. And yeah, I'd just like to do some things around anyone that's in London for All In, stuff like that. I've got some ideas, but depends if we can get those things to work, because we've not been having the best time with it. I know this is the part where I would ask Kyle what he's got coming up, but unfortunately I don't have access to his thoughts and what he's got coming up, so I don't know. I do know that he's currently working on a video, but I can't give you any more details than that because I don't even know. So I think that's it, really. Just a quick one. I'm gonna, before we go off air, this is what I think.
Donut, you're so stupid. You're so stupid. You're stupid.
I had to put that in there because he made a big dig at the British fans and Will Ospreay, and we can't be having that on this channel. So, on that note, I shall bid you all farewell. Like I say, you will see us again on Saturday. And if you want to follow me in particular, you can see me again on Friday on Green Gathering. So, that's it. Hope you have all a nice rest of the week and see you on Saturday. Bye all.